This is a special meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. The time is 5:01 p.m. This meeting will be continued until all items are complete. Mayor, if you could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody could take a look at their cell phones, make sure they are on silent, vibrate, or turned off. And we will start with Resolution 2021-22. Drew?
Resolution 2021-22, a resolution of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, levying the ad valorem property tax millage rate for municipal purposes on all taxable property within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2022, stating the millage to be levied as 5.4200 in Flagler County and 5.4200 is the rate to be levied for Volusia County, and providing an effective date. And just as a further announcement for the public, that 5.4200 mills for both Flagler County and Volusia County represents an increase over the rolled back rate of 4.9570 mills, an increase of 9.34%.
All right, and City Manager, I'll let you intro this. We have new binders now after the last binders. If you can, if you just take a minute and take us through changes. I notice we have capital plan in here now, and there's some other new stuff, although I haven't been able to compare to see everything that's changed. So if you could just bring us up to speed on that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I would encourage any of you that have old binders to turn them in because we reuse them. So Kathleen is asked to get those back. As far as changes, there are very little between the workshop and the fine tuning of the budget, which resulted in the resolution that was just read. Kathleen outlined those in a memo. There was also the 5-year capital plan that was produced, but in my way of thinking about capital plans, it's just that. It's just a plan. It has no legal enforcement. The budget is, and the adoption of the millage rate is the thing to focus on. The 5-year capital plan is a tool we use to help trying to plan out our capital purchases of significant amounts. And in my way of thinking, I'd like to create a 10-year capital plan. The minimum requirement by the state is a 5-year plan. But I think there are certain purchases and certain activities of the city that require much more planning and more lengthy discussions. So we're using this as a draft, as a placeholder to get going. And then we'll obviously refine this over time. The budget process usually starts in January, but I wasn't here in January, and we didn't get started until May. So we were able to do a strategic planning retreat and get this budget put together with 2 workshops in 5 months less time than we normally would have. So I offer this up to you for your consideration. The 5.420 is a slight increase, but we have insurance going up, we have fuel going up, we have wages going up, and most of the increases are going to that. There are very few new positions that are approved in this budget. It's kind of a budget that is basically setting us up and is adopted based on the feedback you provided to the staff about the things you wanted to try to start moving forward next year. And so that's the long and the short of it. And Kathleen is here. I'll be here happy to answer any questions. And that's kind of a quick and dirty overview of the whole process. It does not include the new funding we will receive next fiscal year. We'll have to amend that into the budget from the federal government with the American Rescue Act dollars. And I've been keeping you all posted on that process. We have a small task force that is working with us on those funds. Our take from that particular funding source will be $2.5 million. And we are going to lay out a plan for everyone, and that'll be brought back at another time for your review and consideration.
All right. Commissioners and Mayor. Questions, comments? Jane, I see some reading.
Yeah, I went through and what was different. The biggest difference that I saw was on the general revenue, the ad valorem.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 6.
6?
Is that
Okay.
the number that the state adjusted?
I'm sorry?
The state gave us different figures.
Oh.
I think so.
Well, there was positions that we didn't include, and yeah, I guess this is the income, right? So it would be from that.
Right.
So in all told, on the ad valorem and sales and use taxes, we're going to have 140,000 less at this mill rate than the mill rate that we had already set. Those were the biggest changes that I saw as I went through. Some other things went up and down and up and down, but nothing of great consequence. So I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Phillips?
Nothing.
I'll go to this end. You had your hand up, Commissioner Belhumer?
Yeah, I did a little ciphering with some tax bills, and somebody homesteaded that has a $250,000 house and gets $50,000 exemption for homestead. The taxes would go up $45.93. So it's
For the
not
year or the month?
for the year.
For the year.
That's if you're homesteaded. Now, homesteaded people in town are lucky that we have quite a large that aren't homesteaded, and they're the ones that really get hit hard at tax time. That's an elevation of 4.35% for a homesteaded property, but a non-homesteaded property comes out about 11.35%. So multiply that 45 by almost 3, so it'd be still less than $150. So I'm okay with the millage rate. I think it's something we needed to do. We had some new things to implement that will make life more comfortable for our residents, and I think that's very important. And so I'll be voting for the millage rate.
Just a question, Commissioner Bellinger. So homesteaded properties, according to your math, would go about, on a $250,000 property with the exemption, $45.93. Non-homestead, you said it was around 150. Is that what it was?
Yeah, a little less than that.
Okay, a little less than 150 per year.
Correct.
Okay. I was just checking.
So the trim notices that everybody got will be insignificant.
Right.
And we'll get new ones.
And we are coming in far below trim notice.
Yes, the trim notice that you have was based on the tentative millage rate. The tentative millage rate is the first rate that is set by the commission. It's the rate you're setting tonight that counts. And that one is much lower than the tentative rate. And so I actually brought my trim notice with me because I'm a new homeowner. And I figured even at the high rate, which it won't be, my taxes would be, $17 a month more than I would have paid last year. But again, it's coming way down over that rate. So, you're looking at increases that are very manageable.
Okay, Commissioner Bryan.
I looked at it as well, and I looked at my trim notice as well, and My wife made sure that we looked over that term notice very closely. But with the way, we have a small town, small city, but our needs are definitely growing, and the city is expanding with its needs. And in order to stay ahead of the curve and catch up with some of the things that we have been lacking in the last 8 or 10 years because of the economy itself, I'd like to commend everyone on staff, Mr. Whitson, and department heads and everyone really who worked hard, including our board here. And I feel very confident that this is a very good budget, and I'll be voting for it as well.
Mayor Johnston.
I have nothing.
Okay, the comments I have is, at some point, I would like to cover the capital improvements. I don't think this needs to be it, but I think we need to either workshop that or have that be an agenda item sometime, or just, we need to work it. Depending on the mentality, if we're going to treat it like a strategic plan, or if we're going to treat it as a budgetary item, we still need to, as a group, discuss it.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, this was the first stab at it, if you will, for me. What I've instructed the staff is that we're going to go back and look at it and drill into it a little bit more. And like I said, there are purchases that, we need to stretch out further. I really would like to create more of a 10-year plan. And one of the things that has not happened on the staff that will happen next year is that once a quarter, we are going to have project manager meetings where we sit down and go over the projects. Where are you on the projects? Are you on task? Are you on budget? Are you over budget? Are you under budget? Where are we on these things? Many of those items are caught up in the capital plan. But as a staff, and Kathleen, you correct me if I'm wrong, but that hasn't happened in a long time, if ever. So I'm going to bring a new focus and a new discipline and a new approach to all of this. And I just would ask for your patience as we go through the process. And like I said, we've gotten this far with 5 months less time. So we're going to be working the plan a lot more than what you see in front of you. But I had to produce something because I had been requested by the commission to do it. And it is kind of a requirement for grants and other things that we're going to be applying for. So those are the kind of the reasons and the comments I have behind that. We're definitely going to take a fine pencil to it and stretch it out and do a better job. And certainly, if you want to have a workshop, we can do that. But many of these things are still kind of in the early planning stages.
True.
So later in the year.
I would think it would be more productive, but if you guys say we do it now, then whatever, we'll do it. It's just that I want to put your time as valuable, to better use.
And just to add to those points, in addition to the city's internal reasons for that capital improvements plan being important, the budgeting, the grants, the reason why it's in state law is because it's really also part of the comprehensive planning process. And to back up with what you're saying from the chair, is really that capital improvements plan for every city is in constant flux. I mean, you look at it, you're going to look at it every year. Things may go on to your 5-year plan that weren't on it this year. Things may come off next year that were on it this year. That's not uncommon. It's part of the process. So what you're saying, exactly in line with how the state intends it from that comprehensive planning purpose side.
Okay, and then the last question on that is, there are items on the 21-22 budget, which is tied to this indirectly, that we had consensus on, but we actually didn't vote on. Like, for instance, telemetry, those things. Those are going to come before us at a later point?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, just to give you an update on that, since that is such a major capital project, I am vetting the bidding process that had taken place up to this point to make sure it's good to go. That's another thing I need to talk to you about, Drew. We're going to go through that, make sure we're good, and only if we're it's live ammunition. If it's good, am I going to bring it forward and waste your time? Because if there were critical errors in the bid process or problems with the bid process, I'm not even going to bring it forward to you. So I'm going through that discipline right now.
Got it. Any other questions or comments before I open this up to the public? Okay. Open this item up to the public. If any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item, please come on up. Nobody. Last call. All right, we'll close public comment. Any further discussion on?
I'd just like to say what a great process this was. This is my 16th budget, and I feel very comfortable with all the steps that we went through in, as you said, in such a short period of time. The strategic planning meeting that we had, where we spent an entire day with everybody having as much input as they wanted, staff and commission, and going through your, what were those pages called?
Decision model.
Yeah, those. And just there was very logical reasons for every step in here, and I want to thank you for that, and my colleagues as well.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-22.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Penny, if you want a roll call.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Bellheimer?
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy? Yes. Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chair Cooley?
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous. Item 4, Resolution 2021-23. Drew?
Resolution 2021-23, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, adopting budgets for the General Fund, Utility Fund, Sanitation Fund, Stormwater Fund, CRA Fund, Peer Enterprise Fund, and Building Code Inspection Fund for the fiscal year 2021-2022, fixing appropriations therein, proposing expenditures thereunder, and determining the amount of money to be raised by taxation and providing an effective date hereof.
Okay, and City Manager, I'll let you kick it off. Is there anything that we need to be aware of change-wise at all?
No, same comments, Mr. Chairman. Kathleen, I don't think there were any significant changes other than those you outlined. Okay, that's it.
All right, Commissioners and Mayor, comments? Mayor Johnston?
Nope.
Commissioner Bryan?
Nope.
Commissioner Bellinger?
Yeah, just, there's still a couple things in here that kind of, this is a somewhat dynamic process. So this does not include what we may be approving later this evening with inspection fee changes, correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. There's a separate resolution to approve any building fee increases.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not going to get into all that, but I still think there's a couple changes going to be before the final reading. So,
Like what?
well, there's the way that especially the building department or the inspection fund. I see it in the wrong places in the budget. I see Rick's a line item in there for Rick to get a new truck in a few years, and it's under the general fund and subcategory with planning and zoning.
I can speak to that, Commissioner Billhumor. That truck is for the code enforcement officer. So building code department, what we consider our building and planning department, it's kind of an odd bird because all the fees and expenses that relate to the permitting process and keeping up the Florida Builders Code, those all go to the 102 fund or building code inspection. But then that same office also houses the part of the department which does LBTRs and does the code enforcement, planning and engineering reviews that are also on those permits, but those are all monies that are allocated to the general fund. So since that truck was for the code enforcement officer, that is why it would be in the general fund. But yeah, it was a few years out, so I don't,
No, but there's, look at that section again, and you'll see
Okay,
a replacement for the building inspector,
okay.
or not the building inspector, but the chief building official.
Okay, all right, I will review that.
But
it-
that's in the general fund, so.
Okay, well,
I think
that
should
could be an
getting
error
funded.
on the 5-year capital plan. It's not in this year's budget. We're not doing that in this year's budget. Those are the things I really focus on. One thing while I'm up here that I would like to point out, since we were mentioning permitting fees coming on later in the next commission meeting, if you look at just on our summary page, the building code inspection fund is budgeted at where we are currently. And the total revenues anticipated for next year without an increase are $293,000. And if you look at the total expenditures, those amount to $358,000. So the difference between, revenues and expenditures, I hate to throw in all this there's also restricted monies that have to be transferred out, but we are basically, if you look at the number, $86,608, that's how much we are pulling out of the fund reserve for the building code inspection fund to balance this budget without increases to the permitting. So,
Coming out of general fund reserves?
No. This is all coming out of the building code inspection fund. Each fund has its own fund balance, its own reserve. So
What is that reserve with the building department?
I did not bring that number with me tonight.
Okay, well,
but
maybe you can have that for the meeting when we're discussing.
I know that I did something, I think that we sent out that showed that without any increases, so we'd pretty much be depleted by the end of this year. We might have $2,000 or $3,000 left in it.
It's around $2,200 without increases
Yeah,
in that fund.
Okay,
okay.
all right,
All right.
What other questions, Commissioner?
no, I'm done.
Is it Commissioner Mealy? Commissioner Phillips?
No questions.
Okay, I'll open this up to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? Quiet crowd. Seeing none, close public comment. Look for motion.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-23.
Second.
Go ahead.
You got it.
I got the last one, you can get this one.
Commissioner Bryant is a second.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Benny, if you could roll call.
Commissioner Belhumer,
No,
Commissioner Mealy,
Yes,
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan,
Yes.
Chair Cooley.
Yes, the motion. Motion passes 4-1. All right, we are done our items, and I'll look for motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
We are adjourned. So, we only got a couple minutes, though. Yeah. How do you I'm ready. Chief, you good?
Finger on the button.
Camera guys good?
Action.
All right. This is the regular meeting of the Flagler Beach City Commission. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. The time is 5:30. This meeting will be continued until all items are complete. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mayor, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to follow this by a moment of silence to honor our veterans, members of the armed forces, and first responders.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. If everybody could take a minute to look at their cell phones and make sure they are on silent, vibrate, or powered off. And Mayor, we have quite a bit of proclamations and awards, do we not?
Correct.
All right, I'll let you take it over.
All right. We have quite a few. So, starting off, we are declaring September 2021 as National Recovery Month. Whereas each September, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration sponsors National Recovery Month, and whereas the 2021 National Recovery Month theme is Recovery is for everyone. Every person, every family, every community explores how integrated care, a strong community, a sense of purpose, and leadership contributes to effective treatments that sustain the recovery of individuals experiencing substance use disorder. And whereas substance use disorder is preventable, treatable, treatment is effective, and people can recover. And whereas, to help more people with lived experience achieve and sustain recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, and Flagler Open Arms Recovery Services invite all residents of Flagler Beach to participate in National Recovery Month. And whereas relatives and friends of individuals with substance use disorders can implement preventative measures, recognize the signs of problems, and guide those in need to appropriate treatment and recovery support services. And whereas the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration encourages residents to participate in National Recovery Month to learn more about how to help people achieve and sustain long-term recovery. And whereas the Recovery Month celebration celebrates the gain made by those living in recovery. So now, therefore, the City of Flagler Beach hereby proclaims that September 2021 in Flagler Beach is now National Recovery Month. And now we have some some certificates of appreciation. Is Jay Popit here? Well, he's not, but he was recognized he's the store manager of Lowe's, for donating PPE equipment for COVID for the City of Flagler Beach. So we have Jay, who is the store manager of Lowe's. We have Walter Emery, who is the back-end department supervisor. Is he here? And then we have Angelina Mazzella, and she is the front-end department supervisor of Lowe's. So we thank Lowe's for helping the City of Flagler Beach out and donating those items. And we have one more letter or certificate of recognition, and that is for Liz. Liz saved the day. She was boating with her husband, and a lab, and I might not tell the story correct, fell off the dock, and they got the dog rescued. And animals, they might not be humans, but they're definitely members of our family. So it would be a tragic loss, and the owner stated that had Liz and her husband not jumped in, that it would have been a terrible day for their family. So we thank you, because every animal is a member of our family. Come on up here. And you might have an extra one in there. You now work at Lowe's.
Mayor, if I might,
Oh, perfect. And then we have one more as well. This is for Dennis Walker. Is Dennis here? Okay, and he is being recognized for 16 years of service for the City of Flagler Beach Water Treatment Plant. And he is retiring, so that's a long years.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect, wonderful.
Can I
Here, do
say
you
a
want to
few
get?
things?
Absolutely, and then we want to get your picture
Yes.
up front.
So, first of all, thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Pam Bertolo, and I'm the Executive Director of Flagler Open Arms Recovery Services. And we are very, very thankful for this proclamation. We've had a wonderful year, made a lot of progress here in Flagler. And what I want you to know tonight is that on September 18th, right here in Flagler Beach in Veterans Park, we are holding our inaugural Recovery Month Festival. So we hope we see all of you there. It'll be a day full of music, food, fun, and a few recovery speakers. So thank you so much on behalf of my board. Well, we have one board member here tonight, and my staff, thank you.
All right, you want to do picture?
I know.
All right, and thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Continue the good work.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
All right. Do we have any deletions or changes to the agenda? Penny, what you got?
We are removing item 13 from the public hearings. And its first hearing, or its first reading is proposed now for September 23rd at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter. And second reading will be October 14th at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter in this building, in this room.
Okay, Drew, will that still need read?
We will next month. We don't have to this month,
Okay,
because this was not the advertised hearing. But next month, we'll put it on the agenda again, and we'll read it, and then we'll move it to date certain.
all right. Any other deletions or changes? All right. We have intergovernmental updates. Mr. Al-Adid, thanks for coming out again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission and Madam Mayor. We don't have any notable changes in the proceedings that we have pending. We are still working with those owners. Aside from that, we are working with your city manager and city attorney to develop the maintenance agreement with FDOT. There are some other things that we're doing relative to permits. We had to get some FDOT permits, which we've been able to secure in order to ready ourselves for the project. So everything is moving along in the project, except we do just have two outstanding owners that we're still trying to procure the easements from. So unless there are any questions, that's it.
Questions for Al? Commissioner Phillips.
Actually, I have a question for our city manager. Were you able to contact either of those individuals?
no, ma'am.
Okay.
quick question.
Mayor Johnson.
Of those two owners, the eminent domain process has started, correct?
Well, we have to go through, no suit's been filed, we have to go through pre-suit mediation.
So how long will that push the project? Do we have any idea? Are we going to be able to start essentially in 2022, or could this push it so we would have to wait till after the next turtle season?
No, I think we'll be able to do it in 2022.
Okay.
Any other?
It's hard to know when things are going to happen with two outstanding owners. I mean, we're still trying to procure voluntary easements from them. I mean, that's the function of the pre-suit mediation. So we're attempting to do that. As you know, last time I think I had secured another owner.
Right.
So it's just a lot of work to address their particular concerns.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Al or comments?
Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Al.
All right. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Yes, we're getting to that.
Oh, sorry.
Ne-
I have a
Ma'am?
question. I have a question about this specific agenda item.
Okay, well, you can ask it under public comment.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Citizens are encouraged to speak, however, comments should be limited to 3 minutes. And we ask that if you can, please state your name and address to start with, and we ask no booing or clapping to any of the citizens. And we'll open this up for public comment. And if you can, please come up and state your name and address.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not used to your proceedings. I thought you were moving on to the next item. My name is Nancy Shelton. I live at 1336 North Daytona Avenue. And I asked about an environmental impact study the last time that I was here. And I am requesting that. I just asked if you had one set up or planned around this project. And I am now, as a citizen and a concerned Floridian, and knowing the damage that so many of the dredge and fill projects have brought to the state of Florida, and that this beach has never been dredged before, there will be changes, and I am formally asking for an environmental impact study of some sort where there's research and data that documents the changes to the flora and fauna and the shoreline as a result of this dredging project.
And yes, if you can, is that all the public comment? Okay, Al, you can come up and speak to that if you'd like. And I believe most of that's already been done, is it not?
Sure. Yes, I'm happy to address that. Yes, we have performed all of those environmental studies. We have to do that. But to assure this citizen as well as other citizens, all of those impacts that she described, and even beyond those items that she described. One, we had to find a sand source. We engaged in an exploratory process. Our sand source is, I think, about 9 or 10 nautical miles offshore, quite a ways. And we were very lucky because we found a sink meaning a place where sand had been deposited on the seabed, where it's free of organics and it's free of rubble. All of the design on the beach itself as to the deposition of the sand, that is the movement of the sand from the offsite to the beach, all the environmental permitting has been done on that. But in particular, the considerations are to deposit that sand in a way that restores the dune, makes the dune healthier, adds a very significant amount of additional habitat for native flora and fauna. And as I realize I'm telling you all this, these are things you already know, but so that people understand for the record, we're planting native vegetation that is typical of what exists on our dunes. They're low-growing grasses, they're beach dune flowers, they're morning glories, they're sea oats, the kinds of things that people have enjoyed for generations and generations here. We do not plan to plant any sea grapes, which are not native to our beaches. So we intend to treat the environment with a great deal of respect. During the construction process, we are hiring sea turtle, if we're going to be anywhere close to the sea turtle time, to hire those people to go out there and monitor the activities on a daily basis. And we'll have daily monitoring of all other environmental issues other than sea turtles. We will have to do, depending upon the season, we may have to do some work on the right whale to make sure that what we're doing is not interfering with the calving of the right whale. But all these environmental controls are definitely in play, and we've invested a lot of energy. I don't think I need to tell you all, the county and the city, we are both very environmentally motivated. We're very much environmentally wanting to restore the beach to its natural greatness, and nothing less than that.
And Al, where can citizens get information? Because all of the studies and everything are all public information. Where can citizens go to get that information? I remember this was brought up years ago when we first kicked it off. There was a bunch of links that they could go
Right,
to.
we do have a website that has a lot of data on it, but there's additional data beyond that. And if anybody really wants a deep dive into the data, if you just pass that name on to me, we'll let them know that. But the general website is shoreuptheshore.org. Shore Up the Shore, no spaces, shore meaning S-H-O-R-E, shoreuptheshore.org.
Okay, and then any further questions, we can direct them to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioner Bryan.
Yeah, Mr. Hadid, I think it's important that folks should also understand that this is not a major construction, but it is a restoration to what the beach should have been or used to be because of all of the environmental impacts we've had from tornadoes and, hurricanes and this kind of thing here. It has eroded a lot of what the beach used to naturally be like.
That's correct.
So
You
what
have
we're
less
doing-
native vegetation, you have less native habitat for flora and fauna. That means seabirds, everybody.
Right, so we're just restoring it to where it used to be.
That's correct.
Okay.
We're not intending to, I don't know how important this is, but it is noteworthy that the height of the restored dune is not going to exceed the height of A1A, so it's not going to create a disequilibrium. You're going to have a much better views and a much healthier view of that beach and ocean.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Frau? Okay. All right, thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the public wish to speak on any items that are not on the agenda? How you doing, sir? Come on up. Please state your name and address.
James Sherman, 1916 South Flagler Avenue. I just had first question is, can somebody come out and take a look at the stop sign at South Flagler and 19th? That stop sign kind of sits a little bit further back. And, so you kind of have to pull out almost into the intersection there. Not that people are really speeding there, but I think it's just a safety issue. I have a 83-year-old neighbor that was out there trimming back the shrubs. I see the guys out there cleaning it up, but it's a vacant lot there, and it bleeds over a little bit further. So it kind of takes when you're making a left-hand turn and you want to look right before you make a left. The stop sign placement seems a little bit and you might need to be moved up a little bit. But again, I don't know what the laws are on that, and maybe probably there is a reason why it is where it is. But I think maybe we could take a look if somebody could take a look at that. And I was also wondering, I know it's been mentioned at some of the meetings before about the, possibly purchasing up some vacant lots for additional, possibly parking or something, but I'm glad to see some of our local businesses on the south side are doing so good, but it's really making it quite the hazard on A1A, pulling out on the weekends specifically. It's kind of hard to see. I'm not going to name any businesses there. I'm glad they're doing well. But again, it's people are parking. When they redid the road, yeah, they're parking way too close to the stop sign. And then additionally, it's very narrow now. When A1A was before they rebuilt it, it was a little bit easier. There was a lot wider of areas to park cars and a little bit easier to see when you were pulling out. But as the road shifted more, towards businesses and homes along A1A there on the south side, it's become a lot more difficult to, navigate there, especially on the weekends. And, just a couple of safety concerns. I know these have been brought up before, but and I know it's also, A1A is not our, managed by the city, but maybe something, someone could speak to FDOT to that. Because again, these local businesses are, I'm glad they're doing well, but the parking situation there and trying to pull out specifically on the weekends it's becoming, problematic. Like I know our friends on the north side run into with some of the businesses there as well. But that's all I have. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, James. City Manager, you have that stop sign concern?
Yes, I've made a note and we'll follow up. The chief's sitting here, so we'll make sure that we follow up on that. And
I'll follow up with it tomorrow morning when I
yeah,
come in.
do we have his contact information, Penny?
Mr. Sherman, I believe I.
He sits on a board too.
Yeah. Okay.
Which corner, Mr. Sherman, is it on?
It's Flagler 19th.
Well, how about, is it the northwest, south, which direction?
James, if you can you come up and speak on the mic for the record?
Be on the, if you're heading on the north side, so if you're trying to make a right-hand turn, you've got to kind of pull out, but I go to the left where my house is on 19th. Well, that's where 19th starts, but yeah, you make when you're trying to pull out, make sure you're not, you kind of have to almost go out almost into the intersection a little bit. Okay. So, when the traffic's coming, towards, I guess, I guess it'd be the south, heading south on South Flagler, they're coming in that direction, so you kind of got to pull out a little bit further to see.
I'll check on it the first thing tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, James. And City Manager, we had talked about a line of sight study for a while, and I know you did some preliminary work on that, but where do we stand on that?
We actually have a meeting coming up soon with FDOT to receive the results of, you remember all the polls they put up, the cameras and all that? They're going to come back and brief the chief and I. And then we also have a meeting set up with, what's that gentleman that has the Safe Streets Initiative who works, who's on our NPO? Fine. Yes, he has a meeting with us soon too. So there's a couple of things in motion on those issues.
Okay, so we'll be hearing about that some more then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so James, the A1A corners are in progress. Any other members of the public wish to speak on items that are not on the agenda? If you can, please state your name and address.
Charles Bullock, 1320 South Central. I mentioned 2 months ago about the stop sign request for 13th Street. Haven't heard anything from anyone, or trying to find out where we're at with that.
Okay, is that all your public comment?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And
What address is it that we need to go look at?
yeah, stop sign request for
Right.
13th. Is that south or north? South?
Yeah.
Because of the speeding.
Yeah.
They put the car there for a couple weeks, and then it's...
We did a study there, didn't we, Chief?
We run radar out there for months and haven't gotten folks. The speed limit's 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
I don't see that it's an issue.
Do we have his
Call every time we
contact?
go by then, because it's definitely an issue.
Do we have his contact
I've had other
information?
people.
Penny? Okay, we'll get your contact information, sir, and we'll follow
And
up.
Charles, if you can just leave your contact info for them. All right, any other members of the public wish to speak on items not on the agenda? That's it? All right, we'll close public comment. Move on to consent agenda. Under consent agenda, we have minutes from August 19th, we have American Rescue Act, and we have lease agreement for 97.3 Surf Radio. Commissioners or Mayor, do you have any call-outs for items on consent agenda?
I'd like to pull number 8 just to make a comment.
All right, so we're going to pull number 8. Any other?
Well, she beat me to 8, so I'll take 9.
All right. We're going to work these individual. All right, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 7 of the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second before we get any discussion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on minutes of August 19th?
24th.
Commissioner Bellhumeur and then Commissioner Mealy
There's
seconded.
3 sets of minutes.
We have 3 sets. Okay, so we got the 19th, the 24th, and the special meeting. No comments? Open this up to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on minutes of previous meetings? All right, we'll close public comment. Approval of minutes for August 19th, August 24th, and August 24th special meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimous. Item 8. So we have city manager to endorse and submit American Rescue Act Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Agreement. City manager, do you want to intro that, or you guys just want to jump into questions?
No, that's kind of, I just wanted to, figuring Jane probably wanted the same thing, is just let the public know what this.
We'll let you start and then we'll get to questions.
Sure. The state of Florida, the U.S. Treasury has, for the first time in American history, has given every jurisdiction in this nation funding to help recover from the pandemic. Our funding is under the non-entitlement bucket of funds that came to the state of Florida, $1.4 billion. We get a pro rata share of $1.4 billion, which in our vernacular works out to a little more than $2.5 million. And the contract has been sent, and they're saying, do you want the money? Do you want the money? And if we don't sign it soon, they may give it to somebody else. So I thought we ought to put it on there. I wanted to make the public aware. I wanted to make the commission aware that they're looking for someone to sign off on the fact that we want the funds. Not only do we want the funds, but we are actively, at your blessing, working with a group of citizens and business owners to put together a plan on how we would allocate those funds. So we're almost ready with the plan, probably have it ready by the end of the month. And then obviously we don't want to let the money go, but they're asking for us to sign off on that. Do we want it almost immediately? And so the funds are sitting there with our name on it, and they're asking, do you want them? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is I'm working with this group to prepare a plan to make sure that when we do receive the funds, that they're spent according to the federal guidelines that came from the U.S. Treasury.
Did that
Answers my question.
Okay, Commissioner Mealy?
Yeah, this is a statement that has bothered me in every contract that we've had to sign. I'm not saying we don't sign this because we'd be foolish not to. But on page 7, item H, it says the state of Florida's performance and obligation to pay under this agreement is contingent upon an annual appropriation by the legislature. And that's not true. As we were just told, the Treasury Department of the United States of America has said every single city, no matter size, will get some money. Because of the size of our population, we're getting 2.5 million-ish. And it is not up to the legislature to decide, whoops, we don't have the money, because they do. I don't know what we do about this statement. It just reminds me of the Sadowski funds with the affordable housing. Doc stamp money goes into the Sadowski fund. The state says, oh, let's go spend it on whatever. And then we don't have affordable housing. This to me is even stronger than that because this is money directly from the Treasury with Flagler Beach's name on it. So I just had to get that out there because it really galls me.
It's a good call.
I agree with everything Jane said, but I think what we do is the same thing we always do, which is we sign the agreement and complain about it because the state is not going to take that provision out.
No, I know that.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting any action on it.
It's boilerplate language, but you are absolutely correct.
The good news on this one is if they did try to pull that, they'd be in big trouble with the federal government.
Okay.
Okay, any other, Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah, Mr. Whitson, could you just briefly let the public know how restricted this money is? Because some folks think that you can just use this money for just about anything, and it is restrictive. And just a couple of examples of what it cannot be used on, for example.
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to. Yeah, this isn't just money you can just go spend any way you like. I always joke about the golden rule, but it's very true. He who has the gold makes the rules, and that would be the U.S. Treasury. And the U.S. Treasury says that you have to spend this money in accordance with 2 CFR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations having to do with procurement law. A couple of brief examples is that everybody on the dais, including me and several of my department heads, will have to sign conflict of interest forms. We will also have to do an extensive search of HUB businesses, which is historically underutilized businesses. That's one of the things that is required by the money. And then, we have to spend the money to be more resilient. And then they gave several examples of what we could spend the funds on. And water and sewer expenditures to make you more reliable in a pandemic, to serve your customer base, is absolutely clearly black and white within their guidelines. And we could have taken the whole $2.5 million and spent it in water and sewer. In fact, I had a meeting today in my office with Rick where they laid over $1 million in needs on my desk for wastewater transmission. So, there's far more need than we can, we're going to get in funding. So what we've done is put together a task force to try to sort through the Treasury guidance of what's legally allowed to spend the funds on and what our needs list is. And so we've used that process to vet it. And for example, one of the projects we want to propose in the plan is a fiber optic network. Fiber optic will allow us to have greater interoperability and communications. During a pandemic, what do you need? Communications. And so that fits perfectly in the guidance and is an allowed expense. And we've been coordinating with the county IT project staff to do a design that would be interlocking or interlinking of all departments. Right now, we do not have reliable internet, fiber, dedicated communications between all city departments. With these funds, we could have that. So that's just one example. There are other examples. We're also thinking of purchasing an aeroclave, which is an instrument that you can use to sanitize facilities or cars. Think of this meeting. We have people coming in here. Most of them are wearing masks, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. We could take the aeroclave and sanitize this room every time we have people coming in and out. Makes it more safe, makes it more resilient, makes it cleaner for us to do public business. That's what the money's intended to do.
Okay, thanks. I just thought it was important to let the public have some understanding of how restricted the money is and what it can be used and cannot be used on. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any other questions or comments on
I have just a quick question.
Commissioner Phillips?
Mr. Whitson, once we receive this money, do you know what the time frame is to spend it?
Yes, ma'am. The U.S. Treasury guidance was very clear on that point. For the smaller jurisdictions, we are to receive 2 allocations. The $2.5 million will be divided into 2 buckets or 2 draws. And tranches, yes. I believe that was the word.
Never heard that word before.
That's an interesting one.
I prefer draw, but anyway. The deadline to spend all funds is December 29th or 30th of 2024. And so again, they're asking in this contract, are you wanting the money? And I'm seeking authorization to say yes. And then once we have our contract in place with Tallahassee, I'm hoping in the next few months we'll get the first draw, and then obviously the second draw, probably in early 2023, so that we can expend all funds by the end of 24.
All right, any other questions on item 8 on consent agenda? All right, look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve, authorize the city manager to submit American Rescue Act Recovery Fund Agreement.
Second.
All right, we'll open this up public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on the authorization of city manager to endorse and submit American Rescue Act Fund Agreement? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. All in favor of item 8 on consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimous. And somebody pulled 9. Who was it? Commissioner Bellahumeur.
Just since we don't have a staff summary on this, there's no changes to this agreement from what's existing, correct?
No, there are
I
no
didn't assume
changes,
so.
and I communicated electronically with Vern today. He had a gig, not able to attend tonight.
Well, I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure it was unchanged. And in that case, I'll make a motion that we approve lease agreement with Surf Radio. Once
I'll
again.
second.
Okay, any other comments from commissioners or mayor on this item? All right, we'll open up to the public. Any members of the public wish to speak on item 9, which is the lease agreement with Surf Radio? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hear none, motion passes unanimous. General business. We have an engineering update on stormwater pond issue. City manager, that is you.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first came to the city some months ago, Commissioner Bellhumer invited me for a little ride. He did not offer me a set of concrete shoes. But he did show me an interesting problem with a stormwater pond that apparently started out on the city's property as part of the golf course operations, but was accreting slowly and surely back towards some buildings located at the Ocean Palms area. And there are residents there that are naturally concerned about, the pond, eroding the base of their home. And so I promptly asked that the engineers look at this issue and that we gather the appropriate data and information to make an informed decision about what it was we could do about this situation. And basically, Mead Hunt took the point on that, and David is here if you have specific engineering questions. But the bottom line is he has come up with a solution that would, take care of the issue and avoid the problem with the condos. And it basically, I think, is a good solution, and it is sound engineering-wise. The Homeowners Association, I spoke with the president and been texting back and forth with them. He unfortunately can't be here, but I think he sent a representative. Is it someone here?
Back there.
There he is, yeah. And that basically they are willing to contribute 10% towards the project because the drains from their roof system go into the pond. So I felt like a fair way to resolve this was to receive some sort of contribution from them. And then, of course, with the bulk of the pond being associated with the golf course, that we would take care of that part and re-engineer the pond in a way that would not threaten the base and foundation of the homes, which at the end of the day is what we need to do. So that report should be in front of you, and David is here to answer any questions, and I lay it in front of you to proceed forward. I think, is it 74 or 75,000? Somewhere in that ballpark range is what it would take to solve the problem, and we're proposing a 90-10 split on that between the city and the Homeowners Association.
Okay, I know I have some questions. Questions or comments?
I do.
I just wanted to say, thank you, David, for putting this in English so non-engineers can understand it.
No problem.
And basically now, when this work is done, the entire pond will be within the golf course on city property, not involving Ocean Palm anymore.
Yes, and for the record, David King with Mead and Hunt. Yes, right now, and actually at the beginning of the project, long before, that pond was partially on the homeowner's property, partially on the city's property. It was an isolated pond, and what we're proposing is, for a very good permanent reason, and allow the city to maintain it and be able to maintain it from city property, is to go ahead and fill the portions of the pond that are on the HOA property, and then bring the pond fully within the city property, and then harden it so it shouldn't grow. It will not grow anymore in the future towards the.
Thank you. That's it.
All right, Commissioner Bellhumer.
David, you have any idea where that pond came from? Did the condos dig that pond? I mean, that pond was there when we bought the golf course, so.
Correct, and that's our exposure to the site is when the city first got involved with it. We didn't do a research on that. We probably could figure out where that pond was. I would suspect that it might have been created at some point in time when somebody needed fill to build maybe the condos or something in that area. That's what we so a lot of those isolated ponds we see in low-lying areas. If Mother Nature didn't create them, then man did when they needed some fill dirt.
Yeah, that's what my assumption was. I know a portion of that pond was, a larger portion of that pond, well, not a larger, but a higher percentage of area of that pond before it was dug out by our stormwater project, was on that condominium's property. And I was just curious if anybody ever found out whether that was something that they dug or something that was done. I don't know why the golf course would dig one there, but
not sure.
So I like the engineering idea and the solution. I don't really believe that that it has encroached a whole lot more than it was originally before. We did dig it out deeper on the opposite side, but didn't do anything on the side where the condominiums are. So I just, it's not crazy expensive, but I just think, I think the condominium may have a little more liability than what we're talking about. Just my thoughts.
Could it be assumed that this was a drainage pond for the condominiums based on the location?
The condos were developed long before St. John's Water Management District, and we had stormwater rules in place that required you to retain and treat stormwater. So I would guess not. Again, if I was going to guess, it would be for the filter needs versus stormwater needs when it was dug.
What other questions you got?
No, that's just my thoughts. I think I don't think that shoreline on the south side of that pond has changed since it's been dug out. But it's kind of like when you take your car to the shop and you leave and your turn signal doesn't work anymore. You blame it on the mechanic. So.
Well, we did, as part of the stormwater project, we did expand the pond on almost all sides except for the side that's in question now. And when we did that, of course, we constructed it to good safety, and good slope conditions, if you will. So that's probably why. And then since that time, of course, we've used it as a stormwater pond, and the water's come and gone out of the, for each storm during wet and dry seasons. But we had as part of that project, we didn't touch the north bank. So this is what I think is, what we've seen occur is, especially the scarp, that they talk about, the drop off, if you will. Obviously, there was some dirt there before. I agree with you. I don't think it's grown that much. I think as the water table or the water level increases, the pond looks wider and maybe closer. But I think the top of the bank hasn't really changed that much, but we have had some erosion because of the organic material in that bank.
Okay.
Commissioner Bryan.
Just a question for the future. 10 years from now, is there anything that precludes them from coming back and saying that you accepted responsibility for fixing it this time, so now we want to address it again if the issue starts to start again?
We should have an agreement, and we would want a temporary construction easement too, so we could put language in there. So legally, no, we can cover that legally. Politically, different
I'm just
answer,
talking
but legally, yes, we can handle
because
that.
I mean, they said, well, you guys addressed this 10 years ago, so you accept responsibility, so we want you to accept responsibility now. That's all I have.
Okay.
I had one thing.
Mayor Johnston.
I was glad to see the city be a good neighbor to the condos. I specifically remember a elderly woman coming forward and discussing how it was deteriorating in front of her unit, and that can be very distressing. So I was happy to see how we handled this in our plan of action for the city. So thank you.
I do have one other question.
Commissioner Bellhumor.
They have their downspouts going into that retention area now. And or if we're going to redesign this and move it all to our property, are we going to allow them to continue with downspouts going into that pond?
Yeah, David, you can chime in here, but I think that's a de minimis amount of water. It just is more symbolic, really, than anything. It's not the overwhelming, because there is groundwater forces moving in and out of that area too, is right, correct?
Agreed. Yeah, historically, the water's drained that way, that, you know, and again, to be a good neighbor, we need to allow their property to drain, if you will. As I recommended, you know, things that are on their property, such as any irrigation, and then addressing that or redirecting those downspouts. So if there's a chance that, you know, if we got one directed straight towards a pond and it's the greatest downhill path, if you will, and we can shoot it off to the left or right and disperse the energy before it gets to the pond, that's what we'll be promoting as we're out there. So,
okay, just so we're not going to have the water from the storms and the rooftops washing out the new banks.
Yeah, and again, like the city manager mentioned, it's not a lot of water, and the hardening that we're proposing should suffice, and any of that water shouldn't affect that.
So
bank.
are you proposing doing a little bit of a berm there to slow it down before it gets there? You know what I'm saying? Have like a little dry retention area before it hits that?
We did discuss, I didn't put it in the write-up, but we did discuss where we do the filling is to leave it a little hollowed out, if you will, a minor swale, so that water could get there, settle out, and slow down before it ever kept going to the pond bank. Yes.
Banks.
And to harden that bank so that the scouring stops.
Okay. I think those, you know, if we're going to try to address an issue, then go all the way with it. So, okay, very good.
Yeah, I was going to comment that towards the end of David's letter, there are some things that he said should be worked out, and the second one was that Ocean Bahamas be responsible for restoration and adjustment of the irrigation and redirection of the roof downspouts. So I think that addresses that concern.
City manager?
Yes, so if I may suggest, maybe you, if you so desire, to maybe approve this plan in concept and then allow the staff to go back and work it out with the HOA, the actual contracts and documents, so that, you know, it's in writing as to what we're doing and giving and receiving and all that. And then we would bring that back for final approval. But we wanted to know if we were on the right track this evening, and if y'all were in favor of us proceeding.
So that would happen before we put it out to bid?
Yes.
Definitely before, but we could be doing some of that in conjunction together while that's being worked out. Actually, you know, at the last meeting I was attended, y'all awarded the water main replacement project to Klein. Klein happened to be the contractor on the original stormwater project, and we reached out to them, asked them if they would be interested, and we showed them what we were proposing here, and they are interested. So we would suggest, you know, of course, no commitments, is to go ahead and solicit a change order proposal from them. You might be able to, you know, get this work done under that project. But that change order or a bid, if we chose not to go with the change order, would not go forward until all this is worked out.
Now, I would only suggest the change order because the mobilization fees would probably get it, you know, more in the cost line that we projected.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think we need to do something about it, and now's a good time because prices only go up.
That is true.
Any other questions? I have some. We just got done with this. Why are we going back in here? I understand that we have an issue with movement by the condos, but we just got done with this. How did this get missed?
It wasn't on the city's property, so it wasn't part of the project. I think that's the answer that the city manager was alluding to earlier. that this was not part of the area that was worked on because we had no authorization to work on that area. We were only working on the property that we owned.
And nobody said that there was an issue on that bank.
Well, it was loudly and clearly brought to my attention, and so I asked them to work on it, and, this is what they came back with in terms of a proposal, and I thought it was fair.
Right.
And I can tell you, we were formerly Quentin L. Hampton Associates, and you might see that on the sketch there. So I was the engineer of record on the project originally. So, we did have communications with the HOA at that time. It was a coordinated project, but to the city attorney's point, we did limit the work in this pond area to the city-owned property. And at that time, there was no issues. And to Commissioner Belhumer's point, the pond was roughly in the same area at that time. But we were not made known of any erosion or drop-off situation at that time. I recall the pond was very overgrown at the time too, so it was cattails and everything else. And when we cleaned the pond out, again, we didn't hear of any of that. If we did, we would probably be proposing this at that point in time.
It's a little scarier from the perspective of the condo owner when they're looking at water as opposed to cattails and stuff.
And weeds. Is there any other risk areas around this golf course from all the pond observations that we need to be addressing? And the reason why I'm asking this is the last time we were out there, it was a fiasco with the golf course, working with them. You didn't have the privilege of going through it, Drew did. And have we consulted with the golf course about this?
I'm sure we have not, but we can. And as the project moves forward, we'll make sure they're in the loop. And this is a much smaller scale than that. And it was really the scale and the timing of that, I think, that caused the ordeal that became. So hopefully we can also mitigate some of that by this being a much smaller project, most of which will happen not on the golf course, to your earlier question.
And we have the flexibility here too. We talk about expanding the pond, and we show how that pond would be expanded, but we can work with the golf course to figure out where best to do that. And we are also recommending that we get from the HOA a temporary construction easement, not only to do the work on the property, but to access the site. So we plan on accessing the site from their private roadway in between the buildings and not across the golf course property.
And we would need to have some concrete solid as far as an agreement with the golf course, as far as any type of work. And
it's already in the lease that we have permission to do it. The issue that got brought up the first time around, it was really the notice, even though they'd been out for the tailgate meetings and had been intimately involved in the project, and the communications that was going back and forth. So it was one person saying it wasn't communicated, one person saying it wasn't communicated, one person saying it was. But again, much larger project with more impact than I suspect this will have. Not that it won't become an issue.
I was going to say you're a really positive thinker on that one.
And I was involved in that project, and we actually had more strict requirements of them, like the contractor working a hole at a time, and the golf. Not to bring up too much bad history, but golf course said no, we could expand that to half the golf course at the time. But once we got into it, it was too much. They didn't like that idea anymore, even though it was their idea. So, but I'll stop right there because I got my own opinions too. So.
Good move.
Some of us that have been here a little while are still traumatized from all of that.
So bottom line with this, it won't stop play.
We have the flexibility to again to expand the pond where best to do it. If we will have some equipment there, will be construction. If there's a need for some safety standpoint for players to stay away and maybe tee off from a different tee or something like that, that might be part of it. But any and all of that we'll have to coordinate with the golf course.
Jane, to answer your question, they may have to detour around one hole during some parts of the process, but no more than that. Shouldn't be.
And how long will this project take approximately?
Good question. When we talk with Klein, we'll get a little bit better understanding on that, because we are proposing the fill material that's needed is to pull it out of the existing ponds. They would have to stockpile and let it dry out before they install it. They'll have to do some dewatering as well. So depending on what their approach is, but I would say less than 30 days, within a month.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And you're on the record saying that. I guess my only other concern is any other potential spots. It almost seems like just yesterday we got equipment off there and we left this in the rearview mirror and now we're putting equipment back. Anytime we do this is volatile. And I want to make sure that we just get it done and not have to go back.
To answer your question, Mr. Chairman, we focused on this one issue. I have not done an comprehensive assessment of the rest of the golf course.
But y'all did before, right? You did that when you looked at those ponds before, correct?
Again, the work was limited to city's properties and any easements that the city already had in hand that we did some work in it as well. So, but to the city manager's point, we did for this exercise, we didn't go back around currently to see if there was any other issues that have arisen since the original construction. No.
To answer to your point, there are no other ponds that share ownership with any other private property. All the rest of the ponds are 100% on golf course property.
But you still have the risk of going back and.
I was just going to add to the chair, or ask, in response to the chair's question, would it be feasible as we move forward towards finalizing a plan to kind of do a walkthrough of that property and look for any other issues that we might want to roll into this?
Yes, definitely.
We don't want to keep going back to this. It's not a good idea for any of us.
Well, I don't think you can 100% guarantee.
Right.
Mother Nature does some strange things.
Oh, yeah. One hurricane, it's all done.
Maintenance is maintenance.
Yep. All right. This is consensus. This is not.
Yes, I would just wanted to know if we were going in the right direction, if we have consensus in concept to go forward. We obviously have to bring you back the documents we work out with the HOA, the change order for the contract, those kinds of things. But we wanted to kind of give you a brief on where we were and what we were trying to do.
Any other questions or comments for the engineer or city manager?
No, I'm good with the project as it's drawn up. I think they did a good job.
Do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Bellinger?
Yes.
Okay. Consensus.
Thank you.
All right. Next item.
Do you have a public comment on that?
We can.
Yeah,
It's not an action item, but we can. We'll open it up to public comment. Go ahead and state your name and address.
O'Connor, 2740 South. I know you kind of steered off the road regarding the water, and then the golf course was kind of thrown into some conversation. What is the status with that course? I don't know if anybody plays there, but it is embarrassing. I mean,
But that's a different topic.
that's what I'm saying. So I'll bring that up later. That's why I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah, that would be more public comment.
I fish.
You what?
I fish, I don't golf.
All right. Okay, so we got next item 11, resolution 2021-24. Drew?
Resolution 2021-24, a resolution by the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Resolution 2016-17, which adopted building permit, inspections, and growth management technology fees, and amending Resolution 2012-46, which adopted zoning and land development permit fees, adopting fee schedules for residential and commercial building permits, miscellaneous building permit fees, zoning land development permit fees, and engineering permit fees as outlined in Exhibit A, B, C, and D, providing for conflict and an effective date.
All right, city manager, you taking this one?
Yes, sir. When I came on board, in addition to doing the strategic planning and the budgeting process, I tried to look for holes in the bucket and, things that need to be corrected. And I was shocked, really, to find out that we hadn't addressed building fees in over a decade or more. And here we are on the precipice of new growth coming in. I see my staff pedaling very, very hard, very, very fast, and they can't keep up. And we need more resources to do the job. If we're going to assure public safety, we have 2 inspectors. One of the inspectors cannot do all of the inspections legally that need to be done. Only Rick. We have all our eggs in one basket. It's a single point of failure. I hate to sound like a broken record.
Rick,
But
you are the single point of failure.
if he has an accident on that motorcycle, we're in trouble.
It's happened.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I immediately went about taking a comprehensive look at, well, why are we here and what do we need to do about it? And we produced the analysis that we provided for you a few weeks ago of how we rank and compare with other jurisdictions in the area in terms of our costs. And then we went back after you looked at that, and I got the feeling, it wasn't a formal directive, but I got the feeling it was okay to take the next step, which is where are we in terms of the budget? Where are we in terms of our costs? And what kind of impact would this have if we did some increases? And we did an analysis. We provided that to you in the packet. Rick is here. Some of my staff members are here that helped prepare it. And I'm recommending that we move forward with some sort of increases because we are way behind and we're in the hole. And we can keep trying to make do with what we have, or we can step up and get with the times and make sure that the burden of growth is shifted to the people that are creating the growth. That's something that's very common in not only this state, but other states that I've served and worked in, that you shift that burden to those that are creating the burden. So this way is a good way of taking care of it and addressing that issue, covering our budget concerns, and addressing some of the needs that we have for future planning. And for example, if we have this PUD come in that we have for the apartments and the new homes, and they start calling up for inspections, we have one guy. How are we going to get all that done? Well, in addition to maybe perhaps raising the fees, I've also initiated an effort to reach out to specialized contractors who have inspectors like Rick, who can go and do a plumbing inspection legally or an electrical inspection. And that way, we can bring that contractor support on and get the job done and keep our customer happy, keep the project moving, get it on the tax roll, and satisfy the demands on his time and the building department, and make sure that those that are creating that need pay for it. So that's why I'm bringing this proposal forward. We put a lot of staff hours in it, a lot of thought, a lot of analysis, and I lay it in front of you to decide and consider and decide.
All right. Commissioner Bellinger.
Well, I see you got a fair bit more money in here for professional services, so I assume that's what that's for.
Correct.
However, there's some other things that, the thing that bothers, and I don't have a problem with collecting the money that we need to stay level. The thing that bothers me is that we've been operating in the negative for like 4 years. And that includes the budget that we're approving now. So will this get us back in the black?
We are hoping so. I don't know if you've been operating in the hole for 4 years. I would say in the last couple of years you probably have. And the pandemic didn't help. The pandemic didn't help you. Because it
This
slowed the-
budget we're working on now would be the fourth year.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
So I'm just hoping that, and I know a lot of time and effort's gone into evaluating this and comparing it with other municipalities and so forth. And I don't have any problem with the fees. I think it's, because it's, like you said, it's been 17 years since we've, redone them. But I hope it's enough that we're not operating in the negative like we have been. And it's not just a little bit, it's, I mean, this year we got budgeted, 358,000 in expenditures, but we only got 293 in revenues. So that's that's $150,000.
So
Or no, 50,000, I'm sorry.
basically, the question I'm hearing, is your proposal too conservative? That we can do this and still not be much better off?
well, you have to start somewhere, and this was our best shot at it, and I think it's a good start, and, next year's next year, and I'll have more time and more data to work with, but right now, with the data we have and the staff we have, we feel like this is a fair proposal.
And I do as well. Do you think the 40 days is enough time to implement it?
The city manager discussed that with me. I know there's been a request extended to 60 days. I don't see any issues there. If you would like to go into that direction, then in the motion to approve the resolution, you would include in that amendment to Section 3 of the resolution to make the effective date November 8th instead of October 18th.
Okay. That's all I got.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yeah, I looked at it, I thought it was pretty conservative as well, and I'm just, we've all given Rick kudos for the work that he does, and, I mean, I've had a couple people, contractors, who said, well, I couldn't move on. The homeowners was saying, well, I can't get my house moving here because I'm waiting for the city to come out and inspect it. And I say, you know what, that's not true, because I know that that gentleman out there is usually out there as soon as the call comes in, it's approved the next day, and it was just an excuse that the contractor was using to put the homeowner off. But I think it's conservative, but I mean, I also would like for you to consider, as you're moving along, incremental type of increases and I know you can come back with that kind of a recommendation, but it's just like the water, again, that was lagging behind for years and years, and, our finance director came in and says, this is what we're going to start out with now, and for the next 5 years, this is what we're going to have to look at in order to kind of catch up and get up to speed to where we should be. So that's the only thing I would suggest is look at the incremental increases over the next 5 years, or the 10 years as you're talking about as far as projections. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge, but at least it'll be something to help absorb the growth that's coming to our area. That's all I have.
Okay, hold on a second. Commissioner Phillips?
I will admit that I did not study closely each one of these numbers because.
No mealy math?
But no mealy math, no red pen. But in receiving this last thing today where it shows the current fee schedule and the proposed, with there being a $1,200 difference, really? So I was pleased to see that the home builders were not complaining about it, just with the scheduling of it. So that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Phillips?
I'm in total agreement with pretty much everybody here on the board to do incremental over the next, like you said, 5 to 10 years. We've got to do something. I didn't realize we hadn't increased them in all these years. The one question I had is a super simple question. What is an intake fee?
That's when the person comes and first files for the permit, is that correct? You want to come up, Rick, and address that? They have to fill out a permit package, I think, and give you values.
Yes, that's the time, that covers the time that our staff spends with that contractor, taking that permit in, making sure that everything at the counter is up to speed before we physically accept it.
Okay.
Okay, other question? Commissioner Bellamy, you had
Yeah,
another
it's
one?
just one. The city manager explained it real well, the reasoning behind this. Did we ever get a number on the reserve in that fund, in that inspection fund?
Kathleen has left, but the last report I saw is that we only had a very little in the fund.
Was that $11,000 number that I saw?
It's,
or no?
It
was the one that was given this morning, and I believe it had, probably have it.
Yeah, do you have that, Penny? And if not, we certainly can email that to you tomorrow. But,
Yeah, but
Do you have a copy of the?
is that the same one?
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yes,
Penny. You
that's
go all
correct.
the way to the end, you got $11,000.
$11,000, yeah.
Sounds right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was seeing the right number.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, it's time to rebuild our reserve.
I was
if
concerned
that's
when I found it.
possible even. So,
The only other comments I had is, I'm okay with incremental increases, but if we're going to touch it, did y'all go through the exercises of taking, what you took in permits this last year and bounce it off of what the expected increase is, and will this right the ship?
We believe it will. We did, I believe it was 1,440 permits, Chris? 1,404 permits were processed last year. So we took that number and generated an income number, and then we took the new proposed fees and bounced it against that same number. And it did produce an increase of, what was that, around 150,000? Yeah, approximately 150,000.
You did?
If you're going to talk, can you come up in the microphone?
Come up, Chris, and tell them what page that's on in the report. It's in the report.
Is this on? Okay. So if you turn to the fee comparison overview,
Okay.
it shows you what the current fee base is, and this was based off of a group of the most common increased fees. So just based off the new proposed, it would go from 183,815 to 347,558. And that is just based off of those fees. There are some additional fees that are within the new fee structures, as you can see as you move through the packet, that we broke up the fee structures as well. So there's your day-to-day miscellaneous permitting. Those would be like your HVAC systems, roofs, those types of items. And then there's a separate single-family residence fee structure, as well as commercial. Those two are one and the same, and then it breaks down whether it's planning and zoning, et cetera, et cetera. So there are additional increases on some of those other departments or permit types that are not reflected on the fee comparison. So I think that we should be in really good shape as far as for making up for some time.
Okay, and that's including the upcoming budget with the higher wages and everything else. That will still put us in the black financially with the estimation, at least.
We estimate that it will. Again,
Okay.
it totally depends on the amount of activity, which is, we can take a look at the horizon and see, but it depends on the economy staying well and those kinds of factors.
Okay, that was the only comments that I had. Any other?
Got a question
Mr.
for Rick.
Question for Rick?
Yeah.
Single point of failure, if you could come on up.
I see you smiling under that.
Let me clarify that. That is old, single point of failure.
I'm not touching that.
When you got 240 apartments, how many building permits do you have? One for each building, one for each? I know impact fees are calculated by meters, correct? Or Out of those
Yes.
240 apartments, how many different permits are we going to have involved with that?
Penny knows.
Penny.
Go ahead, Penn.
So usually there's one permit per building. The impact fees are per the fixture units, which are established in our code already.
Okay.
But it is a little bit dependent upon how they apply. Because you could have a situation where they have to come back for additional they make changes, they come in for additional building permits, so yeah, it would make sense to build a building at a time and permit a building at a time. They could have to do more permits, just depending on how they phase their construction.
Okay.
Yes, it's all based on phasing.
Permit fees and impact fees are two different animals.
Yes.
Correct.
That's why I was asking that question. Now, of
That's a
course, the
great question.
single-family houses across the street, there'll be one for every house.
Yes.
So,
And in full disclosure, if it's okay with the board, I am going to tackle impact fees next. But building fees can be done by this board through a resolution with the appropriate amount of study. Under state law, I have to have a more elaborate process and probably several consultants involved to do impact fees.
Okay.
thank you, Rick.
Any other questions or comments? None. All right, let's open this up.
Good.
Yeah, we'll open up public comment. Any members of the public have any comments or questions they would like to ask concerning this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Look for motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-11 with the change that it be implemented as of September 3rd. Is that correct, Drew?
November 8th.
How'd I get to the wrong?
And it's
a week
res-
The other side, November 8th.
Rick, it's a resolution, not an ordinance.
Yeah, okay.
Try
Go
again.
over. It's on the wrong page. Resolution 2124 with implementation on November 8th.
Second.
Perfect.
Commissioner Mealy?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Belhumer?
Yes.
Chair Cooley?
Yes, the motion. Motion passes unanimous. All right, next item. We're removing 13, and that does not need read, correct, Drew?
Rick, we'll read it. We will have it on the agenda again next month for first reading, and we'll also announce at that time that second reading will be the date of the first meeting in October.
All right, next item, ordinance 2021-12, Drew?
Ordinance 2021-12, an ordinance by the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 2, City Commission, Section 2-20, Rules of Procedure for City Commission Meetings. B, to add a second public comment item on regular meeting agendas, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, and providing an effective date.
All right, city manager, is that you?
No, sir, that would be you.
Well, we talked about this previously. This is about the second public comment. We got in pretty deep on that. Jane, question?
Yeah, well, it's not a question, it's comments. If we move forward with this, I would like to see the following added, where it says public comments regarding items not on the agenda. That, and this is what the county does, that there be a 30-minute total limit to the first time we do it, and a 30-minute total time for the second. So we
For all
don't,
public comments.
for all public
public
comment. Each person gets 3 minutes.
Right. Cap
And
it at 30 minutes.
So I
and
guess
with a
you-
total of 30 minutes,
Theoretically, 10 speakers.
yes. If each one takes the whole 3 minutes. And the rest, Penny, just so everybody knows, the rest of this is as it was.
It is, and that's where you see the ellipses before and after that section. And that explains in section 1 that the rest does not change.
Okay, and I would also like to add to the second public comment section that it must be an item different from, like, let's say Nancy gets up at the first one and talks about the moon. that you can't get up at the second time and talk about the moon again. She can get up at the second time, talk about a different item, but, let's not keep rehashing the same things over and over again. Other than that, I'm good.
Okay. So questions or comments about what Jane said? How do you, Penny?
The 30-minute, that's 30 minutes for each section, not.
Right.
Right, 60 minutes total. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not too sure about limiting what you're allowed to say. Some people might come in late and have to talk about, want to talk about a subject that's been spoken about earlier.
No, that
So-
they can't.
No, it's the same person, the
The
same
same
comment.
person can't say the same.
Right. No same person, same comment.
They can't have a 3-minute speech with the meeting and then a 3-minute speech at the end.
Right.
Talking about the same subject.
So you could talk about a subject in the second period that Jane talked about in the first period, and Jane just couldn't talk about it again, if you were both out in the public.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
You want me to think about it?
Well, I'm just thinking about the order of, I know we keep going back to the county, but the county does staff reports before they do commission comments. So then the public comment is after the staff reports, but before our commission comments. And I kind of like how that works.
So you want to move it?
Put the staff reports before our commission comments.
I don't see any harm in that.
I don't either.
No, it's fine.
And to have the public comments immediately after the
Penny?
staff reports.
I just wanted to let you know that I did take a little liberty of this, because what you actually stated at your last meeting when you directed staff to do this
Yeah.
was you wanted it after general business and before commission comments. And I think that your discussion might have got off track and that wasn't what you really wanted. So I put it after public hearings, but you can change it however you like if you get enough votes for it.
But Commissioner Belhumeur, you're saying staff reports first,
Would be,
and then comments, and then commission?
you would have public hearings, and then you would go to staff reports, and then back to public comments.
So you're just
And then-
flipping staff reports and
Oh, no,
public comments?
Right.
That's my understanding. Is that what you're doing? Just flipping those two items, staff reports and public comment?
Oh, okay, yeah, public, commission comments, why don't we quit going around them as agenda item 8 all the time and put it at the end?
We had a reason. I've brought that up before.
It's because you have time certain for your public hearings, and it used to be 6:30 for public hearings. We moved back to 6, so I can't remember the last time that we've had a meeting short enough where we needed to fill. But since you're always moving commission comments
Always at
until
the end
afterwards,
anyway.
you could set it that way, and then if we did have the short meeting, we could just skip to commission comments and then come back to public hearings.
Okay,
So
I like that.
either way works, but I think at this point, it kind of makes sense to do what Rick is saying.
So Rick, staff, and then commission, and then public? Or commission, then staff? and then-
Staff, public comments, then commission comments.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Well, then we're going to be here forever if we end up having public comments after.
Not if we
commission
limit
comments.
it to 30 minutes.
Okay, 30 minutes, okay. All right, I'm just one. I'd prefer it be, commission comments would be after the public comment, second public comment.
I'm not super strong on that either way. The only thing that I worry about is a lot of things come up under commission comments that might end up triggering questions or, responses from the public.
than if we limited to 30 minutes.
Right. Well, in the 30-minute thing is, there's something I want to talk about that. So when that goes on, we could run through where they just go back to back, and then we hold all answers until the end or responses, because that we would have to do that, because if not, we monopolize a lot of that 30 minutes. By taking the comments in order and getting them a response right away, we would just end up having to take notes, come back to everything, and then issue the responses.
Always a good way of doing it.
Right. And I'm not opposed to that, and I think 30 minutes on both sides of the meeting, if we do it that way, is appropriate. And to Rick, if you feel strongly about it, I'm not hung up on it. I personally like the idea of allowing the public to give comment after everything has been said and done and covered.
Well, we've already conceded to that we shouldn't be talking so much during our commission comments on any action items. So I don't think we're keeping people from, I don't know. I like it that way.
Any other opinions?
I would
on
prefer our comments to be last.
No, I'd rather have the public hearings, staff and commission comments, whichever direction, I don't really care, and then public comment after that.
I like that as well.
I just keep thinking if we had enough people, even at the end of the meeting, I'd be impressed. I mean, it's like 2 people.
Yeah, it's not gonna.
We could offer free popcorn or something.
You gonna stay and sweep?
No. Sure.
So why are we
Valid
changing
point.
anything
You're going to stay
then?
and sweep.
Commissioner Bryan, what's your thoughts? You're being quiet.
I like the idea that individuals can comment after the commissioners have made comments, because sometimes there are some issues that we'll talk about. But I'd like to have them able to make, some comment or hear what's going on. But again, I think that if we had limited to the 30 minutes, then that helps to control it some. As far as we don't stand here until 12 o'clock at night. Or 9. Not that I don't mind staying, but it's just that, if it's just going on and on for just the sake of some people just talking, then I think it's just counterproductive then.
I agree with the 30 and 30. So we just have the order. Rick, you passionate about that?
Well, it doesn't really matter. Sounds like I'm overwhelmed with other ideas, so.
All right, so we have two issues here. So we have, the first one is the 30 and 30. Do we have a consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a consensus on that. The other one is, it sounds like we have a consensus on public comment is last. Do we have a consensus on that?
Yes.
Minus Commissioner Bellinger? Commissioner Bryan? Okay. Okay, so that covers those 2 items. What other questions or talking points do we have on
Whether
that?
we do commission comments and then staff reports, or staff reports and then commission comments.
And I think also moving commission comments after public
After the
hearings.
public hearing.
And just to put in one piece of advocacy for putting staff reports in front of commission comments, that might also help to shorten your meetings, because oftentimes we'll get 3 people down where somebody will mention something that me or the city manager or the city clerk may have, or the chief may have a report on, and it's the third person that finally says, are you going to report on this? And then we jump in because we don't want to cut you off. If we give our staff reports first, that may cut out some of the questions that y'all are asking us, or may give you an answer before you even have to ask the question.
Well, I like that. Do we have a consensus on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the first part of that, what was that, Jane? Because there was 2 points you brought up.
Commission comments after public
Comments
hearings.
after public hearings.
Just move it as a final and not mess with it?
Just because that's how almost all of our meetings are going.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a consensus on that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, Penny?
I just want to be clear, general business, staff report,
You left out the commission comments. I
Staff
don't-
report, it would be public hearings, then staff report, commission comments, public hearing, or public comments.
I don't know whether she did that on purpose or not.
Commission comments before public comments, right?
Correct.
Okay, what other questions or talking points do we have on this? Okay, Commissioner Bellinger?
I still like the fact that we talk last. But it is what it is. I'm good.
Well, and this also is dynamic, it can change. All right, so if we don't have anything, let me open this up, public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? If you can, please state your name and address.
Nancy Shelton, 1336 North Daytona Avenue. I just want to use Jane's analogy here, or her example of the moon in the...
Well, I didn't want to get into anything too
Right, well, I do. I just want you to think about two things, if you would. The request that I had earlier about the dredging, the man who spoke after me said that he had a soil source. The last time that I read anything on the website that he provided that tonight, it was not the same sand as what's on Flagler Beach. That is a soil source that is the closest sand. I don't want to be prohibited from coming back after I go back to that website and read more, from being able to come back to you and saying, I'm not satisfied. So as you're making decisions about, how often a person can speak about a specific topic, I would hope you would take that into consideration. And then the other thing is, I need some place to read exactly when I am allowed to speak, because I feel like I'm confusing myself and ticking you guys off every single time I come up here. So I don't want to do that. I want to speak when I am welcome to speak, but I can't tell from these reports, and I just don't know where to go to read when it is that I can speak.
Okay, good question. So on the agenda, there is a public comment period. Let me scroll down.
Number 6.
Number 6, okay. And then after that, the way this meeting is currently set up is after different agenda items. What is she saying?
How you open it to public comment for every item.
Mm-hmm.
And because what it is if I can direct you later, if they're not making a formal motion on an item, they're not making a decision, it's not an action item, they're not required by the statutes to open it to public comment. Sometimes they do, that's the choice of the chair, sometimes they don't.
So the confusion that I had earlier tonight was in the intergovernmental updates. After the Dunes person came up here and spoke, I thought it would then be open to comments. And then, but what you did, Mr. Chair, was move right into number 6.
Right, that's not a public comment period.
So it's see, that's I guess what I need the clarification on is when it's a public comment and when it's not.
If they're taking formal action, the chair
Right.
will open it to public comment.
Right, and so then otherwise I wait until it's citizen comment? Is that the idea? Okay,
Correct, yeah.
all right, thanks.
We're just receiving the report.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this agenda item?
Bill Connor, 2740. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing that, because you do sit there, and if you look, there's 5 people here. You'll never go past the 30-minute. You want to go past the 30-minute, but you never will. And just like before, we were talking about the golf courses. Big, I play there. I wanted to ask a question. I wouldn't have the opportunity to ask that question until maybe next meeting. So I think it's good. Transparency, nobody can argue. You know how social media is. Everybody's complaining, but there's nobody here. I mean, so that's all you have to say is, it's open. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And Rick's not here, but he is the big piece of this puzzle in this town. You better protect him. And I don't know why the other inspector doesn't have the qualifications, okay?
All right, thank you, Doug.
There's
working
training
on it.
in the budget
Yeah.
for him to.
He's working on it.
Should have did that last year.
Can't get them all at once.
Yeah. All right, so any other public comment on this agenda item, which is the meeting order? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Look for a motion.
Look for a motion. I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-12. I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-12 with the amendments that
Second.
changing the order of.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And Penny, if you can take roll call.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Belhumeur?
Yes.
Commissioner Mealy?
Such enthusiasm. Yes.
That was a tough yes.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. Sorry, Eric, there's 700 other things you can get wins on. Yep. All right, so we are at commission comments. Yep. Mayor Johnston.
All right, I have to read my handwriting here where I have everything sketched out. I don't have a lot, but I just have some events that we have going on here in the city. September 11th, we have the Knights of Columbus and Notre Dame, which of Council 10514, doing a annual remembrance ceremony with a procession to Santa Maria del Mar Catholic Church, starting at 8:30 in the morning. It's we do this every year, so this is a nice ceremony. It'd be nice. Starts at 8. I just got a letter from them, said 8:30. Okay.
Well, maybe that's set up, but the thing you got today said 8:30.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, get there at 8, and you know you made it on time. Another thing we have is the September 18th International Coastal Cleanup. It's going to be meeting up at the A-frame at the pier at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is different from the monthly beach cleanups that we do. This is a cleanup where we actually document all of the materials that are found so it can be used for data of what's washing up, what's hurting the marine life, just different things. It's really effective beach cleanup, and it's surprising to see everything that we have. We have the September 16th Museum Moon Dance from 5:30 to 8:30. It's the 20th year of the museum. And then the last thing is lots of people have inquired about the Brazilian pepper cleanup. That's going to be held September 21st. This is one personally that I know that I need to get involved with. It will be at the Pal Parker Park on between South 26th and 27th on Daytona Avenue, and they will begin at 7:30 in the morning and go till about 10 or 10:30.
Unless it rains.
You're not going to be out there in the rain?
No, man.
That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, what I have is, I spoke to Anne Marie from Beaches Go Green today, and she wants to be on the agenda for October for about 30 minutes to come down to make a presentation on Beaches Go Green. As some of you probably know, I got 75 of these things sitting in my driveway. Good thing I got a big driveway.
Might be a code violation.
This is what you call a cigarette butt recyclable receptacle. And it actually has a lock on here, but what we're going to be doing is providing something a little bit different because this lock being exposed to the sea is going to corrode. So we have something a little different that's going to go in there. And we don't think anyone's going to be going in there to take nasty cigarette butts out. Penny was very good in ordering some of the city seals that goes on the box itself. And as it has on here, more ocean, less plastic, butts go here. Around the side here, it has more about cigarette butt prevention. Beaches Go Green. It's pretty sturdy. It's actually powder coated. And what it has is, if I can do this without tearing up anything. This thing here is what actually holds the cigarette butts, and when the individuals clean it out, they drop it out, empty them, and insert them back in there. So these are the cigarette butt receptacles that once I get back from Maryland, I'll be scheduling a time when we can or some people can go out and install them. I spoke to Mr. Reynolds today Darrell Reynolds, he's been very, very helpful. He's going around with the plaques for cleaning up. And the ones that they put on each one of the walkovers as has the most beautiful walkover and all. He took one today. He's going to be talking to the restaurant owners about installing them at their particular facilities as well. So this is what we're going to do to help get some of the cigarette butts out of the city so that the group over here doesn't have to pick them up all the
I
time.
know. We need them on people's cars so they don't throw them out their car window.
So Commissioner, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Who and how frequently will be cleaning those out?
Well, it depends on how they fill up, but that's where we're going to need volunteers to empty them out. Each one of them has to have a GPS location. That's one of the requirements that Beaches Go Green requires, so that they know where they're located. So if they come down to actually empty them, they'll know where they are actually located by GPS coordinates.
Okay, so we'll have volunteers that are going to go to the businesses periodically, or the business should say, my receptacle is full?
If businesses call and say they want one, they can get one.
No, I know that. But if it's full, I'm sorry, if the receptacle is full, is it my responsibility as well to say, okay, we're full?
It's their responsibility to contact the city and let us know that it's full.
Okay.
And then we can also have individuals that'll be responsible for going out and emptying them.
Empty them.
And then once we get a bunch of it or whatever, once we get a request, Beaches Go Green actually has a crew that comes down and collects these cigarette butts. And for those that don't know what they're used for, cigarette butts are made out of cellulose type material, which is plastic. And they actually recycle these cigarette butts into yard furniture and this kind of thing here. And that's the danger of the cigarette butts, because they actually poison the fish, the birds, and other kinds of wildlife. So we're trying to keep them out of the environment as much as we can. So that's so much for the cigarette butt receptacles. And they were free, based on a grant. We got those from a grant. Next item is, I'm still working with a couple of companies on the recycled material for the benches. Commissioner Belhumer sent me a picture today of one of the benches that had grass growing out of it, so I guess I better get on a stick.
Are you still collecting for the nameplates?
Yes, we actually, at the function that we had out here, we actually had 30 people sign up for sponsoring a veteran bench. We counted somewhere around 35 benches. So we'll see what happens.
Did you put my name down, please?
I put your name down too.
You did, all right.
And I'll let them know, it's not a final commitment, it's just a list of interest. So once we get ready to go, we're actually going to contact each one of these individuals by phone or email and let them know that we're ready to go, and then they can make a commitment. I talked to the finance staff yesterday, said that my hands are clean of the money. It'll actually be turned into the city, where Kathleen will set up a special fund, just like she did with the playground equipment. And that way they'll be able to pay for it there. We had some plaques out here also to demonstrate what they were going to look like, and they very salt tolerant, and the plaque would be put on the back of the bench itself. And last thing I have is, I spoke to Mr. Whitson today, and hopefully by next meeting we'll come up with some type of a script that would be put on the monument out here. I'm going to hopefully try to get it done by Veterans Day. It would be nice if we could get it put together and put in place by Veterans Day so that we could have a celebration and ribbon cutting for it.
Great.
That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Bellinger.
Well, unfortunately, that kind of conflicts from what I was going to suggest. We got the donor that I thought they should be involved in what may be inscribed on that on the monument. So I don't. Who's coming up with the?
All we did was we're putting together, as we did at the last meeting. Mr. Whitson said Commissioner Bryan and I would get together and come up with some script and present it to the board, and the board can look at it and review it and come up with their consensus as to what they want to put on there. So if the donor wants to be participating in this, I don't see any problem with that.
We can email him the information at the same time we share with y'all. We were just trying to come up with a straw man to start the conversation.
Okay.
Or any of the public, if folks have
Absolutely.
particular ideas.
I mean, the idea is just to try to get this going so that we can hopefully, I mean, it takes a little while to get these things done, and Veterans Day is in November, I think.
Well, I just think they should be part of the process.
Don't have a problem with that at all.
So, So who's the contact person now?
You can contact Mr. Whitson if you want. At the last meeting, we suggested that we get together and come up with some script. That's what we did. So we haven't presented it, but if you want to have the donors or anyone in the community involved, I don't have a problem with it. The idea is to get the ball rolling because we can't sit around and just wait for things to happen. I don't.
Okay. I don't think I've been sitting around, but,
I'm not suggesting that you're sitting around. I'm just saying that I like to get things moving, and we talked about it, so I got the ball rolling. And that's the end of my
okay. City manager sent out some information on the League of Cities Federal Action Strike Team. I did reply to that and have since applied to be on that committee with the League of Cities. I'm also going to go to the legislative conference in Orlando. Got that, Penny? From November 3rd to 5th. Just to try and keep up to speed with what's going on between the League of Cities and Tallahassee. It's a lot going on these days. I just really want to stay informed, so I'm going to go to that. And last thing, I'm not going to hog up a lot of time. It's going to be another 9/11 ceremony on the pier as typical, 8:30 on Saturday. So be there, be square.
Early.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, yeah, I don't really have anything other than I was going to remind people about the moon dance, but thank you, Mayor, for doing that.
What is the date of that again?
The 16th, next Thursday at 5:30 at Beachfront. I just want to say what a great community we live in. Flagler Strong had a collect hurricane supplies thing last 2 Saturdays, I don't know.
It all
Last
blends.
Saturday, whenever it was. And quite a few people donated quite a bit of stuff, and that's terrific. And Carla Klein came up with a let's thank the hospital, the healthcare workers. And she started out wanting 1,000 $20 gift cards. Then she discovered there was some more people that she hadn't counted, so I think it was like 1,300. And the last I saw, she's 45 short of 1,300 $20 gift cards. So thank you, Flagler Beach, and whoever else around has contributed. Those people are amazing at the hospital, or all the healthcare workers. And to be able to thank them a little bit is very nice. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Phillips?
This coming Saturday, we've got our Kids Zone at Wickline Park, starting at 1 o'clock. So I'm inviting all children ages 5 to 13 to attend Wickline right at 1 o'clock. I've asked Captain Pace, he's going to have a fire truck out there as well. I think Miss Sydney back there, she's smiling. She's going to be there as well. So I just want the children to take a look at the park visually. At about 1:30, we're going to head over to Sunbros Cafe, where we're going to have snacks, and the children are going to draw out their ideal park. So we're going to talk about whether we want to have it themed or not, what is their ideal park, and whether we should rename it something other than Wickline Park. And after that meeting with the children, then we really need to get serious about money. So I did talk to Mr. Whitson about using American Rescue Act money, potentially, and the answer, from what I understand, is no, unfortunately not. We did receive some money from the Flagler Strong event to the tune of about $130, but we're going to need lots more. I don't know what that number is, unfortunately, because I want to see what the children come up with before we price out what vendor we're going to use. So whether that's a GoFundMe account. I did talk to Johnny at Oceanside because he runs Flagler Beach Business Bureau, and he wanted me to ask Mr. Whitson first if we could use the American Rescue Act money. And since the answer is no, I'm going to go back to the Business Bureau. Unfortunately, the Business Bureau, they're not a revenue generator. So, but maybe they can come up with some creative fundraisers or something that we can do. So that's where I'm at right now with Wickline
More
Park.
Flagler Strong driven?
Yes, and Flagler Strong as well. Yeah, I talked to Joan Harris this morning, and she said she's willing to, come up creatively with some ideas. And then once we get this going, Flagler Strong will provide volunteers as well.
Commissioner, how much are you talking about?
I don't know. I unfortunately don't know. I've got a bunch of booklets from different vendors, park vendors. I don't have a number yet, but I will by the next time we meet. Because I just don't know what the children want.
Sure.
It's thousands.
I know.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a lot of thousands.
I'm gonna guess like
equipment is
50
expensive.
grand,
Yeah.
but I don't
Yeah.
know that for certain. That's just a guesstimate.
Look at that
It's probably a lot more money than
Keep going.
that.
Yep.
It's probably a lot more money than that, so. And then we also need to talk about, so Lee's having a survey done right now to see if we can expand the park, make it bigger. And then we also want to keep the front part of the park where adults go and work out. We don't want to take away from that section as well. So whether we keep it there, move it, paint it, replace it, that's all kind of to come. So hopefully the next meeting, I'll have a kind of a guesstimate number of how much money we're going to need to proceed with this. And I am attending the Moon Dance event next Thursday. I'm on the event committee, so if anybody's looking for tickets, $75 for two. And Rob Peck Band is playing, and you can order your tickets right online at the Flagler Museum. That's all I have.
Question for Debbie.
Commissioner Bellinger.
Is there any particular reason you're wanting to change the name of the park?
I didn't know if it had an official name. It's just something that I was kind of kicking around. I don't know if people know it as Wickline Park. I think I asked Penny, is that like the official name?
Well, the official name, there's quite a bit of history with that property.
Okay.
And Betty Steflik wrote a fine article that was in the senior building for a long time, and that disappeared, Jane, for whatever
Did it
reason.
really?
Talking about the one hanging by the door?
Mm-hmm.
It's gone?
It's gone. So I did get some good photographs of it, but there's a lot of rich history behind
Okay, yeah.
the Booty Wickline Cultural Center.
Okay,
That's the entire complex.
okay.
Yeah, I would
So-
hate to get rid of the history.
Okay.
I kind
No,
of.
and that's fine, and I
Yeah,
said that.
there's too much, it's too much, you got Wadsworth Park, you got Steflik Park. and
Right.
I just think we need to kind of leave that alone.
Yeah, and I'm
And I
totally
was
fine
telling
with that. I
William
didn't know there
earlier,
was
I
history.
mean, back when they tried doing fundraisers to get that building restored back in 1990, so over 30 years ago. I mean, the people of this town were super involved, with bake sales and whatever other ways they could, put a couple dollars together to contribute to the cause.
Okay.
And
There are still family members around. too.
Okay, and I didn't know any of that, so that's
that's
off the
why I
table.
wanted to
Yeah,
bring that
appreciate
up
it.
and
What
share
happens
it.
when you get new people
Yeah,
into town?
exactly. New people on the board. So,
Well, we
yeah.
were new ones too, Jane.
I know. I'm kidding.
No, I'll take that off the table. Thank you.
All right,
Just to get back to what Rick said about the letter, could it possibly be at the County Historical Society?
I don't know where it went. I just know it's not there.
Because that was being used by the county. I wonder if when they left, they,
I don't know if they snatched it or not, but I doubt they're the ones that put it up.
all right.
Because that's a really nice
Yeah,
article.
it was.
Full of history on how that all progressed. So if I find a copy of it, I'll share it with the rest of the commission.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Phillips, you could actually keep the Wickline name and name the playground something else. I mean, they just donated Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell Stadium. You could have some name, playground at Wickline Park. Just a
Yeah, it
suggestion.
can still be part of the cultural.
It keeps the historic value while also coming up with something else too.
Coming up with a cutesy name like Sunshine Park or something,
Right, and does it have to be 8 to 13? What about kids 50 and older? We're not allowed to come to the event.
Well, the fire truck's gonna be there, so you might wanna.
Can't
We
wait.
can take a tour and they're gonna squirt the kids with water, so.
All right. Want to thank Linda P. and Mayor Johnston for a record-breaking beach cleanup. The turnout was enormous, huge turnout. Can't even put a number on it.
Over 100.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Just ROTC probably had 30 to 40, just that one group.
Wow.
And then you got the Fabulous Females of Palm Coast, you got Girl Scouts, you got the innovation team, I don't remember.
Flagler
Andrew.
I3 program.
You got Andrew Medeiros' group. I mean, there's every group that's a group seemed to come out. And a lot of trash came off the beach, which was the unfortunate side and the plus side at the same time. We filled up the tippy carts, more than once, and had to make a quick call to Rob Smith to get them picked up. But big effort. Hopefully we can duplicate that through the winter.
Can I add something? So we made a joke. We were like, wow, beach cleanups are like actually becoming a thing. And Sydney saw on Instagram that the high schoolers are now promoting the beach cleanups in all of their threads and Instagrams, and they're talking about we need more people. So it's actually like kicking off as like the thing to do in the schools is to come to our beach cleanup.
Yeah, there's been stuff on Facebook showing some high school kids just, come out and do this.
Oh, and they're going to provide their own materials. I mean, this is how serious they're getting. It's a fun thing.
Which raises one question. Sydney, what are you doing on high school threads? No, I'm kidding. We have an event coming up. Yep. We have an event coming up tomorrow. It is from 6 to 9 at Veterans Park. I'll just read the description. It is the Empty Shoe Memorial and Candlelight Vigil. And what that is the Empty Shoe Memorial will be held September 10th at Veterans Park from 6 to 9 p.m. Each pair of empty shoes represents a life lost to suicide last year in Flagler County. September 10th, which is tomorrow's World Suicide Prevention Day. Please join us for Candlelight Vigil, 8 to 9, which is battery-powered candles for all those who, if you know somebody who lost their lives to suicide. So that's tomorrow. And I will be out there, and unfortunately, I will be bringing a pair of shoes. Huge turnout to the beach cleanup. If y'all didn't see it, go look up the pictures on the Flagler Beach All-Stars page, because it was, we had an army out there of folks who were doing cleanups.
I thought that the Funky Pelican had a fire. There was that many people out there.
All right, and that's all I got. Drew, welcome back.
Thank you. Just one, in part because the question was asked about the golf course. I was contacted Tuesday by the attorney for Flagler Golf Management. We've requested to do our audit, as we have the right to do under the lease agreement, of financial records. So I have been contacted to start working on scheduling that, so that will be moving forward. And I know the question was more directed towards condition of the course. The city is monitoring it. As those of you who were here for that know, we went through that in the lease agreement and doing an addendum to try to nail down where that standard has to be kept. And so the city is keeping an eye on it. I don't think they fell below the standard the last time. But I would also say, if you have specific issues with the golf course, put them in writing, as detailed, as specific as you can be, and send them to the city, because then we have the right under the lease agreement to provide those to Flagler Golf Management. And they may not fix it. They may not have to fix it if it doesn't bring it below that standard, but they at least have to tell us they're not fixing it and why. So it actually helps the city when you have issues with the golf course, if you'll put those in writing, again, as detailed and specific as you can be, and send them to us so that we can send them to the golf course manager.
Homework, Doug.
I mean, I think grass is a pretty big part of a golf course.
Whatever you got, send it to those guys.
We
Night hole is horrible.
We checked it, but it happened to be during a period of heavy rain, and so they passed. But again, we're going to keep checking it. So.
But your comment was you didn't get to the ninth hole. That's what you said.
Well, we're getting off topic here. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he looked at me.
But yes, to the extent there are issues or complaints, send them to the city. That actually helps us. It's not a nuisance or a bother. That's all I have.
Thank you, Drew. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few quick comments. Last year, there was a decision made to extend lifeguards beyond the typical Labor Day period. And that has, I guess, caused us to kind of exceed our budget. So I'm just disclosing that our budget is going to be short for the lifeguard items this fiscal year. It's not unusual to have things like that happen. We have a budget wrap-up and true-up process all set up in early November as we close the fiscal year. So we'll account for that and, report that and work through that. But I just want to disclose that because, we're at that point again, and the staff is asking me, are we going to do the same thing? And that decision wasn't made by me. That was made by the commission out of your concern. And I think if you were to ask me my opinion, it's really weather-driven. And I would defer to the board on that. I feel like we have an adequate budget and an adequate planning process, and I don't see any need to put additional lifeguards out there. But if you all feel differently, then I take my direction from you.
Okay, so you're wanting feedback?
I want some feedback,
Okay.
yes.
Commissioners, Mayor?
I haven't seen overwhelming crowds over the last couple weekends at least, so I doubt that it's going to go back up and get busier because we had a couple of really good weather weekends. So I don't know that it's necessary this year.
Any other comments?
My question would be, what does Tom think? What does Tom think?
Tom's kind of in line with me that, we just kind of call it like we see it. And, we do have people we can call in and, I think we go through our normal process. I don't think there's a need to add a lot to it. We might want to maybe scale back the size of it. But other than that, I think we can manage it on an as-needed basis.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yeah, I was going to say, how late did we go last year? I don't remember.
My understanding was that extra guards were put on past Labor Day on up into October.
Okay.
Any other comments or
I think
thoughts?
just as needed.
I'm okay with as needed and leave it up to staff. I mean, they're the ones that are out there every day, so they see what the particular need is.
You might pull the streets in, as you hinted at.
Okay. Again, we just wanted to report this because it came to my attention, and I just felt an obligation to share.
Hold on. My thoughts are, I'm not for it, and I'll tell you why. We go through this every year. This is almost an annual occurrence. We need to condense down the covered area, and we need to look to county to put in their fair share. We have a severely unsupported and underfunded lifeguard program from the county aspect. We keep adding, and this is of no benefit to our local taxpayers, and that needs to be addressed. And we talk about it every single year that I'm a commissioner, and we run what we budgeted is my thought. I mean, I think I'm in the minority on this one, but it's frequent. Last year we did it because we had a surge towards the beach after COVID, and we extended the season a little bit. And then the year before that, there was something else with Larry where we were having to move the size of the coverage area, and all of it comes down to one thing. We're going over budget, and we do it every year, and we're having to make these exceptions. And so we're either not budgeting right or we're not getting enough support, and I think it's a combination of both, but I don't want to go over. I think we reduce our coverage area enough where it's going to prevent it, is my one thought, just for this one guy.
I agree with you, but I don't want someone to drown. I mean, that's just where I am. I mean, there is an area, you reduce the area. But I mean, I go out there on the beach, we all go out there on the beach, and there are a lot of people, and they don't know. I mean, we're reducing the area because of our budget concerns and also because the county and whomever is not helping us to cover the area. But by the same token, I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that I didn't make a decision that maybe could have been prevented. Because it's not these individuals' fault that they're coming to the beach to enjoy it. And it's not their fault that we're not getting all the support that we need to. But I think that making the decision that we're making now, and with the help of Mr. Whitson, putting the pressure on the county to let them know that this is not sustainable. Because we have a growing population of visitors from Palm Coast and Flagler that are coming to our beaches, and that's fine. But they have to also take care of their constituents that are coming to our beach. And I think we need to force that point home more stringent than we are. And I think I have confidence in Mr. Whitson because he's been reaching out to the county to let them know that we have these needs. So, I mean, I'm okay with it this year, but I think that I would be in the same position that you're in next year to say, you know what? It's time to start reining them in because the county's not listening. And we need to let the public know that we're not getting the support that we need. That's where I am with this.
Well, I'm with Eric. I don't think we should delay it another year. We've done this repeatedly.
I had a comment.
Mayor.
I'm actually going to agree with you. You have to draw the line in the sand. You have to say enough is enough. Because next year they're going to not give us the money again, and they're going to and then we're going to be sitting in that same boat. And you can't lose sleep at night because someone can drown on 18th Street where they choose to go to the beach. I mean, even when you shorten it down, you have to hope that the visitors are going to go in front of the lifeguards. I've changed my mind on it. I think that we draw the line in the sand, we go with what the budget is, and if the county doesn't like it, then they can foot the bill.
Oh, or we can kind of meet in the middle. Like Commissioner Bryan had a couple good suggestions. You kind of can work that with county and kind of put them on notice and say, this is just what Commissioner Bryan said. This is not sustainable. And it really is not. We can't keep going through this cycle every year where we're extending and we're going over budget and we're getting stuck with the tab that county should be supporting us on. And so, I have a lot of confidence in you, and I have a lot of confidence in Tom to make the right decisions. But at the same time, I'd also lean on you pretty good to really reduce our covered area so our public knows this is where we're guarding. And if you go down on 18th and you go down on the 20-somethings, that it is unguarded, and we care about you. But we're not going to have 7 miles of lifeguards.
No, we never did.
Right.
I think for this year, we should play it by ear. If the weather warrants, pull the streets and the number of the coverage area. And I know you have an agreement to meet with the county about budget items earlier, because they start way earlier than we do. That you put in the request then for next year, and in a time where they can't say, oh, we already set our budget.
Oh, they're not going to have that excuse next year. They'll be getting the letter early, and we have been collecting data. I've been pushing the staff to collect data, and it's not that we let them off the hook because you didn't ask the question until April and May, and they had their budget set. Okay, fine, that's when I came on board. But we've been collecting data, and they're going to get that letter much earlier this year, and we will press our point and see what happens.
I mean, I'm not opposed to going before the board and making a presentation and telling them, this is what we need. Right. Because, I mean, there's, one commissioner in particular is always saying they give the city so much money, and we abuse it. So, I mean,
But I think in all fairness to them, we need to go with data.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the difference. It's one thing to put your hand out and say we need money.
Sure.
It's another thing to say we need money and here's why.
Absolutely.
Right. And then when we're sitting here next year, and if that money doesn't come, then the lifeguard program ends on time.
I'd be total agreement.
Okay, I hear you. Next item is the pier. Right now, there's a little more than $10 million sitting in Tallahassee with our name on it to restore the pier. But you have to do it their way if you want that money. And there's a lot of technical items that have to be covered, and it's a very high visibility area of community interest. And so, given that, I would like to have a full workshop with you to disclose that information, lay out a plan that is in line with federal rules and guidelines so that we can begin tapping those funds, because the clock is ticking and they are not going to hold those funds forever. If you want them, we have to speak up soon.
Public transparency is essential on something like that.
Okay, so we have a consensus on a workshop?
Yes.
I need to have that in the October timeframe, so if Penny, you have any dates or you want to maybe do a poll, I don't know how we want to proceed, but we'll really need to kind of have in mid to late October to give me time to come up to speed with a plan.
All right, well, Penny gave us calendars.
That was for September, and I gave you another one for EDTF. The October one is availability for EDTF, so a lot of those dates striked out aren't necessarily not available. That's just with EDTF. So if I could, because I don't know exactly which off calendar she's included on here, if I could email you a calendar, and I'll give you 3 dates, and you guys are going to have to pick from those.
Okay.
If you know right now of any time that you are definitely not available, that would be nice to know beforehand.
Okay.
I will not be available the 1st through the 14th of October, or 12th. Anyway.
All right, well.
I won't be ready then, so that's good.
Okay, so I'm good the 19th, the 21st, and the 26th. Are the ones no, I'm good on those days. You wanted the ones I wasn't.
Right.
My blonde roots come out sometimes.
Sorry. So after, when are you back? The 14th?
14th.
Yeah, the 14th. It might be sooner, but I'm going to the Keys fishing, so.
We're talking about an afternoon meeting, I assume?
Yeah, I only need about an hour, but there may be public comment, so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I am not good the 18th.
There is no way we're setting that for an hour.
Well, she asked when I'm not available.
So, and Penny, I'm a no the 22nd, 25th, and 26th.
Yeah, 25th's not good for me either.
My bad days are the same as Ken's. Makes it easy.
20, 21, and 22 are out for me.
I can do the 19th.
I can do the 19th, the 21st, and the 26th.
I've got other calendars I gotta bounce off.
Yeah,
For other people, so
Okay.
I'm just telling the dates that you're not available, that helps me more than anything right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then the last item is not a COVID vaccine encouragement policy. It's a COVID-19 vaccine encouragement program. At this point in the pandemic, we all expected it to be over. But right now, I'm having to run a city, and I got people going down left and right. And it's mainly because people aren't vaccinated. There are breakthrough cases on rare occasions, right? But it's because people aren't getting vaccinated. And I'll give you a hopeful update. By the way, our code enforcement officer is down with COVID. He was not vaccinated, but he is now out of the hospital, praise God, and he's on the mend, but it'll be a slow go. So I'm asking for authority from the board to put together a vaccine encouragement program saying that if you get vaccinated, I'll give you a couple days off. If you get vaccinated and you happen to get COVID, okay, and you have to go into quarantine, or a member of your family goes in, then I'll give you your days back. In other words, I need some carrots because I can't mandate people getting vaccinated. And so if I could get that flexibility from you, it would help me run a better operation at the city, because there are all kinds of people popping up that, we need to depend on, and they're not there because of COVID.
And Drew, legally, we can do such a program?
Depending on how we implement it, yes, and they're becoming more and more common as this drags on.
So you can just work with the city attorney and.
Yes, if I may, I'll just work with the city attorney, draw something that's legally sufficient, and then I'll just, if it's okay with you, because of the urgency, I'll just send you a copy of it.
Okay.
Because I need to get something moving quickly.
Okay, Commissioners and Mayor, we got a consensus or comments or questions?
I have a comment. Giving somebody time off kind of bothers me because the people that went and got their vaccine and aren't getting sick aren't getting that time off.
I can't
So that
disagree
bothers me.
with you. I really don't disagree with you, Commissioner. However, we are where we are in this pandemic, and I have to have ways to run this city, and anything I can do to get people to see the light and get vaccinated and maybe not go down would be helpful.
There's also people who were vaccinated or are getting sick from the previous
Yeah.
I had the unfortunate honor of going to a deputy's funeral last Friday.
Right.
That died of COVID. And in the same day, there were 3 other funerals in the state of Florida, all for law enforcement officers that died of COVID. It's ramping up. It's rearing its ugly head. It's not going away.
So Commissioner Bellinger, you were,
I mean,
well, just for clarity, you were saying that if you have the vaccine, or you went and got it, you get days off. Is that what you were saying?
No, that's not what William was saying. If they get sick,
He was saying he didn't
Then
think
he
it was
would-
fair.
he would give them the time off to go get vaccinated and do things of that sort. But I'm okay with that.
Well, and if
He's
you
got-
draft
like
something.
he said, he's got a city to run. He can't do it without people.
And if
So
there's a way to
incentivize.
put something in there for the folks that got vaccinated, just, that way we try to
That's
keep it as
correct.
fair as
That way
possible.
it balances on both
Right.
sides. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Mayor.
Can you go ahead and throw in a caveat of it including the booster as well? Because that's going to start rolling out very shortly, and then you're going to find yourself in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Okay, so do we have a consensus?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's good? Commissioner Bellinger?
Yep.
Okay, you have a consensus.
All I had, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Penny.
I am trying, Janelle still has hair left after this. Trying to wrangle some dates for the workshop with the EDTF. And basically, what she's come up with is, it's not good, October 18th, 19th, the whole week of the 18th through the 22nd, and then Monday the 25th and Monday the 26th.
This is also at 5:30?
Whatever time you would like. These are just days that the members are available. I would assume it would be, they were probably aware, definitely after, I think they regularly meet at 4, so I'm sure they're thinking between 4 and whatever, so it could be a little later.
I can only do.
And if I may, I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench in all the work that Janelle has done, but the higher priority in my mind would be the pier. So if you're struggling to come up with 2 dates, you might potentially bump the EDF workshop to November because it's not time sensitive, whereas the pier and the grant funds are time sensitive. Just a suggestion.
That committee's not doing much anyway.
Or do both.
Well, they're looking to us, apparently. That's
Right.
what this workshop.
That's why they're not doing much.
Then we start getting into the holidays, into November and December.
Honestly, I don't think EDTF workshop would take very long. That one's a much safer bet than the pier. If there's a way to do them the same day, maybe EDTF first and pier immediately
Yeah,
following.
I'd rather not do that.
Mm-hmm. EDTF would probably need to be locked in at an hour and a half, which is probably workable. They're looking for initiatives, priorities of commission, marching orders.
Right.
And if everybody does their homework ahead of time,
So how you wanting to do this time? You want days we can't?
No, I'm
Again.
telling you days that are here, but Mr. Whitson's asking that the pier take priority, so I'm looking at my boss. You tell him what to do.
No, I'm with him. That is, he's been saying that since the first day he sat in that chair, how important it was to get this pier fund going.
It is, and to be blunt, the EDTF, they're a great group of people. I think they have good ideas, but they are floundering. And basically, all of the ideas they're talking about right now, Mr. Whitson is addressing with the American Rescue Act plan. So, unless they're going to come up with some new ideas.
I do have a briefing with them coming up.
For that purpose.
Yeah,
Because their ideas are already being addressed, or going to be.
many of them are, yes.
so
Why don't we
push
just
to November.
Why don't
for
we just
EDTF.
get our peer workshop lined up first, and then reset, and then do this at another date? Pick a date at our next meeting or something, because we should have the peer workshop worked out by then. Yeah.
All right, let's get the peer workshop set.
So we'll just tell them that it's coming, might be November before.
And you want to email us the 3 potential dates or something, have
For
us
the peer
choose?
workshop, I
Okay.
will, yes.
So we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got, Penny?
It's like herding cats.
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on, Chief, you got anything?
Yes, Chief.
The new audio-visual apprentice.
Oh, you're an AV intern.
And next month I'll be doing production and set design and all my own stunts. So the stunt work will be included in there. But no, the last thing is, thanks for bringing up the stuff about the lifeguards. And a lot of that has to do with the month of September, especially 9/11 is about the middle of hurricane season. Today was a perfect example, a lot of rip currents out there. This weekend's supposed to have some more. And if the lifeguards aren't out there, you know who your first line of defense to go in the water is? That would be your law enforcement officers. I can tell you 3 times last year where we dropped our gear and went into the water, which means now your firearms laying on the beach while you're going in to rescue someone, which is not our full-time jobs. So to explore that for the future, I think it's a great idea.
Hey, Chief,
Yes, sir.
license plate readers?
The license plate readers are up. There's power to them. We're just waiting on a couple MOUs from the company, and we're hoping to go full bore with them first week in October.
What is an MOU?
Memorandum of Understanding. Because the data that we'll be able to take from the cameras, we'll be able to share with other agencies, not just in Flagler County, but in surrounding counties, in any county or municipality in the state that would request it. So you have to go through memorandums of understanding that if you want it, you request it. And there may be somebody from Calhoun County that they're looking for, that they may want to look at our data to see if that car's ever been in our city. So it's those things of getting them out, and they're, Drew's familiar with them. They're, kind of boilerplate, but got to get those out and get them back. But yeah, we're looking the first week in October to be fully functional.
Thanks.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
we're adjourned.